Welcome back to Building Remnant. In our last episode, we showed off the Labyrinth armor and certain setups that you could use, just a few of them, personal favorites of mine. But through that adventure, pardon me, we ended up running across the merchant that will sell you the Osseous set. So I've decided to go ahead and showcase a couple of my personal favorite builds to go with that. The first one here being the Ring of the Punisher build. So you can see increases damage to enemies affected by status effects, but then each unique status effect applied increases all damage by 5%. So the idea is to get as many status effects as possible. So what we've done is our amulet is the abrasive amulet, so melee charge attacks will cause corrosion, as well as melee charge attacks apply bleeding with the Razor Stone, and I've paired that with Smolder, so that will do fire damage on charge attacks. So with one charge attack, we can get 3 status effects to give us 15% damage boost, but the Bloodlust ability with the subsequent ranged or melee hits, the bleeding damage is considered melee. So you will see your damage go up for your bleeding, and then that increases your ranged and melee damages. Now we also have taken a Frozen Mist on our machine pistol, so that we can get the Frostbite or even Frozen status effects to make it 20% more power. We're going first with our Eye of the Storm, just because the Overloaded status effect does count as a unique one, but the next lightning attack you hit, or if they get close to something else that has the static, it'll have the overload go off in a massive explosion. If you've got enough status effects on that target, and you've done enough damage to build it up, then that explosion gets those damage buffs. So we've come here to the swamps of Corsus. Right now I'm just having a little fun. I gotta remind myself what it's like to use the Eye of the Storm. But I'm playing on hard, so most things are gonna die in a charge shot. Most. But you barely got to see how that bleed damage... Yeesh. How that bleed damage started off. I think it was at 24, and it was 27 by the time the thing died. So one thing I didn't go over in my previous video is one of the best things you can do in this game is use what you are comfortable with. I just happen to be a bard in real life, so I can use a little bit of everything. I'm just not an expert at any of it. So if you find something that is useful to you, or you wield better than other things, find something that'll work with you for that. For example, I'm not the best when it comes to up-close melee combat. So what I could do is I could just switch that out and forget about the fire damage. That way I can sword snipe from afar and get the corrosion and the bleed damage. Oh, maybe. And then those will increase damage done by 10%. Now the one problem with this build is no survivability. You're relying on your items for all healing, which again isn't so bad. Where did you guys come from? Oh, come on. Now these are very interesting enemies, because when they get in this state, you have to hit this little glowing orb that they spit up. Yeah, otherwise they'll swallow it again, and you just keep fighting. But as you can see, I have no healing, no survivability. This is a boss killer, though, just because that 20% extra damage on top of the Bloodlust extra damage, you can really get the bleed cranked up, and whatnot. But speaking of that, the bleed is really the most survivability you're gonna get out of a build like this, but it's not ideal. Just because, especially with me playing on a lower difficulty, most things are gonna die before the bleeding takes effect. But your main setup there would be, you know, take the Razor Stone for whatever you're comfortable with using. If you happen to be comfortable with using the Scar of the Jungle Gods, then this is pretty much up in the air. I just prefer a Blood Font because, like I was just saying, not everything's gonna get that bleeding to heal you. But the lag just became very real. Which is funny because I'm offline. Yeah, as you can see, one-shotted on a charge attack. So, if something big came along, we'd get the heal from it, but at least the terror margin is still giving us that lifesteal on contact. So we'll run the bleed for a minute. Like I had mentioned in the first video, you make most builds around armor. And as far as I can tell, unless somebody's just got a quirk that goes otherwise, the two best things to use when it comes to a bleed build is the Osseous being actually number 2, the first of all being the Warlord set. Now, the benefit to the Warlord set is the immense lifesteal you can stack on top of the lifesteal of the bleed is just phenomenal. Not to mention the damage outputs are pretty much the same. Strange pass. I want to say this leads us to the brain bug. But again, this is a better survivability. You get more damage out of the Punisher because you get the 35% boost to your ranged and melee from the Osseous after a few hits have been landed. But then, the more status effects you put on somebody, the more damage that they'll take, on top of them taking more damage for bleeding in the first place. Just any status effect, really. So, bigger enemy here, we'll have him bleed. You can see that we don't get any damage bonuses, but quite the health steal. Now, mind you, when it comes to the bleed, there's only... Oh, come on now. I'm a terrible shot. There's only one weapon that has a bleed mod attached, and one bleed mod you can attach to an open weapon mod slot. So you're really restricted on your possibilities for the bleed itself. For one, again, you only have the Devastator here, and it's, you know, stake shot, which is still quite devastating. Then you have the Fan of Blades as the other mod, if you have that DLC. The Scar of the Jungle God is the only melee weapon with bleed, and if you happen to find the Razor Stone, you can make any other melee weapon bleed from a charge attack. But again, that's it. That's why the build is very restricted, and then it's pretty much up to what armor you're wearing. Now, if you're going to be using either unarmed or claws, oh crud. Yeah, if you're going to be using unarmed or claws, then it is highly suggested you get good with the neutral dodge, just because of the moves that you can combo off of them are quite devastating if you can land them without having the enemy mess your day all up. But as you can see, again, I pretty much did not lose health on that. Again, we could increase our damages if we were to put the blood font on the back burner, Personally, and honestly the only time I really ever take this ring, is the Stone of Balance, because its ranged and melee damage is already going to get boosted, but it supremely increases your melee damage, and the claws get used in this build. Like, and if it's not the claws, then whatever else you're using, like if I was sword sniping again. But that's the whole downside to that. If I was sword sniping, I would end up taking the Razor Stone to give me the bleed. So it's either that, or you use whatever melee weapon you are comfortable with, which is highly suggested, because then you can just take the Burden of the Follower or some other mod generation and completely rely on your mods for damage. But where's the fun in that? Now, I'm the kind of player that prefers to have a high survivability in a build. Ah, Razor Stone. So now you know where to find it, somewhere on courses. I really do like to have survivability over everything else. I'm going to end the video with, well, not end this video, but end the series with my personal favorite build, just because I call it the Undying Paladin. Not that he can't die, it's just his whole job is to keep everybody else alive, including himself. So I wanted to get, you know, less survivability builds out of the way. Reason I say this one is a less survivability is out here in the field, you're restricted. The things that you can actually get the health leached from in the bleed is low. You're looking at like every elite you meet, and even then, most of the time, you just have to take them down fast. You don't get the bleed off, or you don't need the bleed. You're just using it for damage. But again, I just like having that little bit of buffer. I want to say that was the Mantis ring with the red bug. Can't be sure, but that's a Swamps of Courses DLC extra, finding those beetles and the little extra unlocks they do. I'm not gonna lie, that last shot was a little bit of luck. That fellow was right next to me, he just happened to be standing in the line of fire. Or I'm just actually having a good moment. I'm just waiting until I mess it up. Here, big bug boy. I'm sorry, there's something satisfying about just looking at them as they slowly wither away. I swear I'm a nice person. Anyhoozle, always be on the lookout for those blue items. The Tomes of Knowledge help to level up your perks faster, but I just have had them all unlocked for quite some time, so I know you're there, mister. Come on out. Are you cereal? No. Well, what I did was, that was terrible. Yep, see, that's why I paid. I had that nice little streak going, and now I'm stuck here in the oh-no's. Yeah, never underestimate that stake for its stun potential. Yeah, go for your weapon. There we go. Yeah, I don't like those guys.
That was rough.
That's more like it. Now, these guys right here, they have a... Ow! They have a unique effect that they can give you, which becomes crucial in some of the DLC stuff. So that move you just saw right there, where you grabbed out to hug me, you're gonna let this total xenomorph rip off and plant a parasite in you. Oh. And then once you have the parasite, avoid getting rid of it. Don't take the cure for it. Don't use any of the checkpoints. Especially since I'm pretty sure I'm coming up on the brain bug. One thing that is beautiful about it, you can see I have a 0.7 health regen, even though my health is halved. So I'm... 1.5 is good. So just be cautious, you know, play it careful. Just do whatever you can to stay alive. Because the important areas where you'll need this parasite status effect will be at the brain bug, so you can get the carapace armor, which at some point I'll show you a suicidal build with that. I say suicidal because you run around with half health bar, and I don't mean like this. Like, you can't heal up past half. There's some benefits, but the carapace armor, I do believe, is what you can buy from the brain bug, as well as the Iskall Queen. If you come to her with a parasite, then she'll send you on an extra mission to, let's say, recruit a member into her fold. But, again, do not hit the checkpoint. It will clear you of any status effects you have. Instead, we're going to run in and see if I'm in the right spot. Margosh's lair, I was correct. So now you can come over here to Margosh. And now he recognizes you as one of the Iskall. So go ahead and speak to him. So go ahead and ask of the colony. Now I've already got the pieces of the armor. So we're going to go ahead and do what we do now. In order to get the armor, you're going to need a few parts. One of them being, like you saw the red beetle earlier. I can't remember what color the beetle you need is. But they'll drop a item called a hard carapace. I wish to say that is what it is. Yes, hardened carapace. So as you can see, I have 3 of them here, which means I would be able to put 1 into each of the 3 pieces of armor. And I think you need a simulacrum or a luminite crystal as well. Might be the luminite. Now, one cool thing is if I say don't need these 3 materials that I'm holding, which I don't, and I was in someone else's game who needed them, I could sell them to the vendors at Ward 13, and they could buy them. Now, I'd be taking a hit because I'm selling them for less, and they'd have to pay full price for them, but they didn't have to go and farm random dungeons until 3 of those beetles showed up. So... But now that I've, you know, talked to him, gotten whatever I want to do out of the way, clear your parasite, and then come in for a wee bit of a boss fight. Now, I didn't need to double bleed him like that. There's really no point to it. I just, yeah, enjoy it. Watch out for his ads. When using the fan of knives, it actually is that, a fan. It works in a cone, as it'll fan out. So think about that, either up close shotgun blast or, you know, a wide coverage. Just keep the bleed on him and eventually he'll wear away. I dislike these guys. Ow, tremendously, and they're even worse. Oh, I missed. How could I miss? He was 3 feet in front of me. Now, one cool thing about the brain bug fight, usually where he left his corrosive cloud is where he'll come back out from. He doesn't go far when he burrows. So again, just keep your bleed damage on him. And it'll just eat away his health, tell you where he's at. And then I don't recall what he drops.
That was rough.
I really don't. You'd have to look it up, you know, in our wide and knowledgeable base of YouTubers and such. Because again, I'm late to the party. I'm just showing off the stuff I do. So now before we head out, I'm gonna go ahead and change things up since I've, you know, already introduced how to get the Carapace set. We're gonna switch to it. Now, the cool thing about the Carapace set, after you avoid damage for 15 seconds, your armor hardens 1 time per piece, granting a damage reduction up to 25%, which is better than it sounds. Taking damage removes a stack, so it goes down to 25 to 15 to 7.5. But if all the stacks get removed, you gain 10% bonus movement speed per piece, up to 30%. So if you get hit 3 times, now you have a 30% movement speed for 5 seconds. But it also increases your total damage from all sources by 5% per piece. So now you can see our melee and whatnot has all gone up. So what we're going to do with that, though, is we're going to try and use the damage reduction to our advantage by taking the restriction cord. So it restricts our healing above 50%. Oh, it restricts the wearer from healing above 50%, apologies, of their max health. But it also reduces incoming damage by 15%. So in total, that's 40% damage reduction for at least that first shot that we'd be taking from wherever. Now, there really isn't a ring that compiles with that very well. But there's 2 choices you have here. Either you can increase all your damage dealt by 30% when your health is 50% or below, but that's going to be a constant. So as you can see, you know, we have 70s and 60s for our damages now. But what I prefer to go with... Did I pass it? Nope, there it is. The Rock of Anguish. So I gain 10% movement speed and 15% reload speed for every 25% of max health missing. So that gives me more movement speed and reload speed, so, you know, gotta go fast build. Doesn't give you the evade speed you would need because this is a heavy suit of armor, so you get that fat roll. Not entirely sure where to go with this. If you wanted to go for more damage reduction, then you could go with the Amber Moonstone. That way, when your health drops below 25%, you gain 25% bonus damage reduction and immunity to status effects. So if you're under status effect, it'll disappear. That's an option. I don't really ever suggest using the Alchemist Jewel, just because, especially in a heavy suit, now I'm ultra heavy, and I have no way to counteract that. I have no dodge. You're going to have the need for healing constantly. But the middle one is kind of up in the air for the build I'm going for right now. Something that I like to do, actually, is the Deceiver's Band. So you increase your evade speed by 25% and movement speed by 15% for 10 seconds after you perform a slide. So it's another gotta go fast kind of thing. Not entirely sure how to complement that. Just gonna go with favorite weapons. So how exactly would I complement a suicidal build? Well, we're already working off of movement speed and damage reduction. So if we wanted to get even more damage reduction, we'd take Howler's immunity. As far as movement speed goes, the only thing that does that would be the Stormcaller. Huh. We're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. So, what we're gonna do... We'll leave the dungeon. And then we'll head a different direction. Now, you're probably asking yourself, weren't there other builds that the Osseous set could do? Of course. There's so many things in between and above and beyond what I've showed you. The Punisher ring setup is definitely a boss killer, just no survivability. But then the other side of it was all survivability with, you know, some damage buff. You can always go somewhere in the middle. You could go completely left field and actually use the melee damage buff for a melee damage character. It's all completely up to you. These are just little things I run myself. This suicide build is not bad for what it can do. But to be completely honest, it's meant to be kind of a melee sniper build. I always mess that up. Because again, I don't have any form of survivability here. You're just dependent on your items. But you have highly increased melee damage. Or at least not highly, but increased melee damage, you know, if you wanted to use that at a range to protect that damage reduction you've got going on. But like I had said, the third accessory slot is really up in the air as to what you want to do with it. Oh, I'm fighting this one. Did not matter. So, that's the one problem, is with a low health pool anyway, it is just so hard to not get one shot. Something we can do to help that. I wasn't even using that really, I always forget to slide. We're gonna get what little health boost we can, and a little bit of health regen. So it's just a few points, yes, but that health regen... And honestly, I should have panic pressed a couple of buttons while that was going on. Because again, right now, this is all movement speed. I should just be using it to rush the map. You know, it'll take out what it takes out along the way, but now we're running magically. So if you like speedrunning, you know, you just want to have that that damage reduction for that one hit that might get to you. This is where it could be good. Now, the tone went off for an elite. And like I had said in the previous video, you're gonna see me use the beam rifle and the machine pistol a lot, just because, like I had said, whatever you're comfortable with is what you should be running. If you really like the Chicago typewriter, there's a build for that. You know, you can build around the weapon. I know I have said before that most builds are built around the armor, but if you're trying to build it around the weapon, just find the armor that fits that and then accessorize. Now, this is somewhat pointless unless you have a specific item, which I happen to have from previous adventures. This is how you unlock the labyrinth armor. To get the sigil in the first place, you have to have that parasite effect I had demonstrated earlier and go talk to the Iskall Queen. She'll give you, even if you don't have the parasite, now that I think about it, she'll give you that as long as you have brought her the Beast's Heart, the Guardian's Heart, in the regular campaign storyline. Now, once you have the sigil, you have to find this totem 3 times, and then you can teleport to a special part of the labyrinth to find all the pieces of the armor. I don't know if I even remember where all of them are. What I do remember is there's one of them that is very hidden because you have to drop down, but here's your checkpoint. I want to say this is the drop down. Now, it doesn't look like it, I know, and again, if I do die, then oh well. Ah, this is it, because you can see this labyrinth is like the other part, ever changing. So here's the helmet. I think you get out the way you came in. Now, I have to be careful with this movement speed setup I've got going on. I can actually run faster than the labyrinth generates. So, I need to be careful or else I'm going to fall off the edge. And this is something I'd like to avoid. Alright, and I do believe this leads me back to the beginning. And then I have to jump down again. Right. And to the start. Alright, and we had gone that way. Just because my paranoia, and I had just said something too, we're gonna switch back to the damage side of it, which personally is better ran. Since you've got good mod and other damages, I'm gonna increase those further. Besides, I don't like the fact Stormcaller doesn't allow you to do anything else. I had demonstrated the very good boy, I do believe. So instead, I'll just bring beckon for the skulls. Alright, now we go this way for another piece. So we've collected the helmet, which personally I switch the helmet out for other pieces if I'm trying to mix and match for several effects. There's the leggings. I do believe, yep, you can come this way. Now, if I remember correctly, this was a distraction, because you wanted to come this way. Yep. And now we have acquired the labyrinth armor. So, that sums that up, in case you were wondering where to get it. I can't plan exactly what I acquire when, just because it's completely random. So, I'm doing it as we go. Hence why I've been fortunate that the armors I've been showing off, we have now seen the ways of getting. So everything else will be really up in the air. But again, there is a gigantic community of YouTubers, Redditors, and whatnot that can help you as much as I can, if not better. To be completely honest, most of my builds are not unique. It's just I've tweaked someone else's idea. Even then, I might have completely ripped it off. I mean, God tier stuff is God tier stuff. If everybody's using it, at least the enemy's dead, right? So, moving on from all this brouhaha, that's the way I came from, all speedrun style. I probably missed something. Yeah, more than likely did. But it looks like that's locked up there. So, yeah, let's continue this way. This will probably... Well, no, that's locked right here. Well, then we're probably missing some side dungeon. We will find out. So yeah, now that we've got the damage boosted and don't have the mobility, I find it better to, you know, sit back, let things come to you. As a matter of fact, if they're coming to me, then with a setup like this, I have no mod generation. It's all based on damage I'm doing, which, you know, isn't bad. But me using summons like this, there's better setups that could be used besides the rings I have going for me. At least by all technical means. I could be using a ring known as the Soul Link, which makes 10% of the damage my summons do heal me. Which, it's not much, but you can get these things to do immense amounts of damages with the Labyrinth build. That's where it'd be more useful. That's where you get your survivability, is in summons. But when it comes to the summons, I was gonna save that for a whole nother video. This is just a really good pairing with the fact I have boosted damage, and I don't want them to touch me, so why not have, you know, scouts to clear the area, or in this case, turrets and mobile turrets. You know, just helping hands, something to give a little covering fire, even though they're junk half the time. Now I'm just gonna go ahead, do a little speed running through, just for saving time. Also, not one of my favorite setups with this. I would put it on the list of higher skilled players. I'm not gonna say highly, because there is still some room for leeway. Again, you've got that damage reduction on your first hit. Well, your first few hits, I should say. But other than that, you really don't have much to go for towards healing. Oh my no. Hey, friendly fire for the save. Oh, that move is so damaging. I always forget about it. Because he clips you with two thighs from the bottom hands, and then the top hands smack you, so it's... that hurt. So we're just gonna go ahead and run for a safe spot. And that's another peeve I have with this whole setup is, you know, what's the point of healing? I only have a half a health bar. Yes, that's more just me being cynical. So trying to think. Pardon me. Not entirely sure if there was anything else for the Osseous set that I could demonstrate, but since I was already on the Drowned Trench, that's Canker. Since I was already on the topic of how this is kind of a Deathwish-like build, you know, a bit of a suicide mission having thing, we're gonna go with that. Literally the skill of Deathwish. So if we come down here to our Warlord set, I'm gonna go with the Destroyer paint. You can see it has the skill of Deathwish. So what that does is your Dragon Hearts no longer are consumed for healing, which means they don't disappear if you use them. They don't do anything, at least as far as healing. Instead, they're going to increase your ranged and melee damage, grant lifesteal, and drain your health by 200% over 30 seconds. That's right, it's going to kill you. I think that's clear why we call it a Deathwish set now. So, with that being said, we got to get rid of the restriction cord. But a must when it comes to this build is a Band of Discord. It may reduce your consumable speed by 15%, but your Dragon Heart's heal the wearer with 125 health over 30 seconds. What that's going to do for us is, instead of that life drain being tremendous, it's manageable. The life steal and whatnot, as long as you can keep doing damage, which is pretty much the name of the game, that's where it's your best shot. Now, what I like to do is, I was mentioning it in a bleed build. That's what we're going to go with because that's where you're going to get the most survivability out of this set. Yeah, because I can't take... So, going back to the bleed is honestly very simple. You know, choose your favorite gun. We're actually going to stick with the theme of silent weapons. Make sure it's got all your bleed mods. Let's go ahead and heal up. But again, the benefit here, 3.5% lifesteal, which is not including the lifesteal you get from the Bloodletter's insignia, which stacks with the terror margin, which is why I did that. Because, you know, you could also use the Mender's Charm just to get your healing percentage up, but, I mean, why? This just stacks too well. I'm not going to try and sneak. Just eat fan knives. Now, beware of the twin shot, just because of the fact it'll, consume 2 ammo per pull of the trigger. So where it says it has over 30 shots, cut that in half. You know, I think it comes out to actually be like 17 pulls of the trigger. But you can see how devastating it is, and handgun ammo pops up so often. And again, this is meant to be a little bit of a silent build, just because you want to have as much health starting-wise as you can, because when you pop for that damage, it's going to start draining you. But every kill gives you 5% lifesteal, so you can fight that drain off. I think it's for like 5 seconds. And that's how it originally was meant to be, you know, go into a frenzy and just keep firing. But you can see a little bit of a damage increase. And I'm not even using the bleed part of it to supplement for the health yet. The one issue I have is you're constantly having to check down in the bottom right-hand corner. Make sure that your, you know, cooldowns haven't gone away and that you're still getting that damage buff. Don't mind me, I'm a terrible shot. Oh, come on. Speaking of terrible shot, always try and pay attention. There'll be this little red reticle that'll pop up in case your shot is blocked. That's what just happened to me. I didn't pay attention to the little reticle. Oh, come on. Ow. Alright, here we go. I'm dead. Now, by means, I am not a good player. I just happen to come together with certain synergies and builds that are pretty good. But that's why this is a suicide build. Constantly draining that health if you can't keep up the damage. So, what a safer option would be besides the bleed. Let's go back to our preferred weapons, because that's always a good thing to have. We're going to go with Swarm, because while our skill is active, that will go off. We are going... Oh, what was it? What am I going with here? You know what? We could do that. I'm going to take a Vulcan's Detonator, because I'm also going to just go ahead and take the Hive Cannon. Because the fire damage, the cloud damage if they're standing in the acid cloud, the swarm damage, then the bleed damage that we'll be doing, which, speaking of, I'm not a fan of the claws. You can see I'm not proficient with them really. So what I'm going to do instead, normally you see me go with the hero sword, but there's a lot of things that can block it here, like these posts and whatnot.
This isn't looking good.
But the World's Edge can pierce through certain surfaces and give us that bleed that we need. Now another benefit to this... Oh, it wasn't here this time. Another benefit to this, you know, covers a larger area, so you can hit more people in one swipe. Where were you? Oh, you're in there, so... Oh, and of course I would have to start. But you can see how much healing I got out of all of it. Now, what saw me from where? Is there one up here? That's what it is. And again, all this little damage over time effects, which the Osseous and the Deathwish do best, they do provide some mod generation, if you haven't noticed that already. And now that we've got that fire damage going for us, that'll give us some mod generation, as well as healing while our effect is active. But again, my biggest pet peeve is I don't pay attention to that part. Literally because I was about to mention it is why I looked down. So, I save it for elites. That's pretty much it. Everything else you can handle. You don't need that damage buff, you know. We could go either way, it seems. And I shouldn't be needing that parasite effect right now. Now, it gets kind of confusing sometimes. You'll be hitting debris in the area and think you're hitting an enemy just because you see a health popped up. And again, you need stamina for the wave to show. So beware of that. I just ran out there. And now you can see the swarm. So if you can get the bleed, the swarm, and the burn damage on something, you're pretty much immortal. I've actually tackled Apocalypse that way. Not to mention it's uber powerful. But running up against regular enemies, you know, why do you really need that damage boost? You're still getting some life regen on kill, so the life steal isn't that important. But that extra damage boost is really nice against the elites. You're just having to deal with the extra seconds afterwards.
Where'd he come from?
Yeah, those extra seconds of needing some health regen. But if you're fortunate, there's always something to wet your weapons on. Now, mind you, if you don't get the wave out, it doesn't matter. As long as you hit with the charge attack from the sword. Not having enough stamina, I mean. So, heal, fire damage, swarm damage, and he'll die. Very shortly. Throw some bleed on there. No, I'm back at full health, but I've still got 15, Devouring Loop, that's a good one. I've still got 15 seconds of having to fight it. Without that Band of Discord, it'd be going twice as fast. I mean, ridiculously quick. Should be behind that corner, yep. Oh, come on. You actually got blocked. Stop! And here I thought we could be friends. Alright, now run away. Hit that. Now you only need to hit with anything from the Hive Cannon. Both its moves are explosive. Get that fire going. And the fire damage isn't, you know, exponential. We're just adding another tick to the healing process. What saw me where? Am I going backwards? Yep, I'm going backwards. But, another tome. Go this way so he can't yell me. Excuse me, I need to power up. Thank you. Oh, he didn't care. And again, any explosion can hit you, so beware of that. cheap tactic, I know, but the enemy's dead and I'm alive. Isn't that the point? Wasn't that the goal? No, hit the one in the back, please. Thank you. Well, that got exciting.
How's that, you bastard?
I'll take that ammo and... Ah, I ticked off another one. I'm running. I'm supposed to be going this way. Oh, come on. Love it. Friendly fire for the kill. Okay, now that nonsense is over, let's do what we're supposed to. I know, I can speak correctly, I just don't like to half the time. Oh, come on. Could you not? It's not hammer time. What was that move, bud? Oh, that was the one. And again, I wasn't even powered up. That's my biggest pet peeve, is I just never remember to keep putting the buff on. You know, proccing it. That was what I was looking for. And again, I'm sorry if I'm, you know, invoking people's OCD by passing by items. I've got too much of everything. This game really got broken by me at one point. So for the sake of the length of the video, I'm just going to go ahead and take care of Canker here and then cut it off. I mean, we've covered the Punisher damaging side of the Osseous with the bleed side survival. This is the Warlord survival, technically. We even threw in a little bit of our health restricted suicidal carapace. You know, these are just random ideas. Whether I'm saying they're good or not is not a thing, because it's any build in a good player's hands is going to be good. But for here, what we're going to end up doing... Yeah, I think we'll stick with this. So I'm going with the hero sword because Kanker likes to run along the entirety, or at least most of the entirety of this arena. So the World Edge just doesn't have the range I'm looking for. But he's quite an easy boss. Stay out of the water. Honestly, stay on the little patch of land that you first spawn into. Dodge any of the pustules he leaves around. It's fairly simple. Terrible with leading shots. That one was nice. Watch out for the ads. If you do enough damage, he'll just run on. Oh, come on. Such a terrible shot. Now this is what I was talking about. Watch out for the wave and the pustules it's going to send at you. Oh, he didn't have any scattered. How about that? Too soon. Too high. Somehow still hit him. Here are the pustules I was speaking of. Just watch how they volley. They do explode. Stop it! I'm not entirely sure if I did that without getting hit, but that is a requirement for a trophy. So, he's one of the easier bosses to get it on.
Broke a sweat, I'll give you that.
Because again, you know what I completely forgot to do? He's an easy boss. He really is. You just gotta know what you're doing. So yeah. Hence why I don't use suicidal builds. I would rather take the Osseous, still get the damage buff, and whatnot. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the video here for time constraints. Hope you found something informative and enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.